The 22-year wait is officially over for Arsenal. 22 years of hurt, 22 years of being laughed at, 22 years of being an absolute banter club was finally ended this season as Arteta's boys lifted the trophy. Today we're going to break it down, discuss it, analyse it, and look towards the future as well as looking back at this victory. Reece, we've got to come straight to you first and foremost. 22 years you've seen your club, as I said, be the butt of jokes, struggle, be laughed at. How are you feeling right now?
Hmm. Yeah, of course, on cloud 9, as they say, it's it never really sunk in until you saw Odegaard lift that trophy at Palace yesterday, which I think is that's where the real crowning moment becomes, and it's crazy to think that how in 2004 you thought after the Invincibles it was a matter of when, not if, they were going to lift this again, and here we are 22 years later. A lot of factors come in between that, which I'm sure we'll delve into, but it's an incredible feeling. I myself was a serial doubter. I still have doubts over certain things, but I was a doubter, and I think I was justified in some of my doubts with the Bournemouth performance, the Wolves performance, the Nottingham Forest away performance. But they got over the line, and to finish 7 points clear at the end, I think is a justification of how well the team have done, and it's it's an amazing achievement for everyone at the club involved. And I think it's it's taken a while to get there. We've gone round all the back routes to get there instead of just going straight across the motorway, but we got there in the end.
Yeah, and Jamie, I guess a question for you. Obviously, beating Pippin City to the post. Do Arsenal deserve this title win?
I've always said whoever finishes on top deserves to win it. That's plain and simple. And if City did pit Arsenal in this, they would have deserved to win it. But no, yes, Arsenal deserve to win it. It's as simple as that. You play 38 games. There are key moments of the season where things could have gone against you, could have gone for you that didn't as well. It all pans out in the end. We'll look at sort of people will talk about certain decisions. West Ham won for being was a big controversy over it. There's sort of you can go to the first game of the season versus Man United where they probably gave a foul and could have conceded a penalty in the same game. Didn't in either of those. But then there's going to be decisions out there that Arsenal fans will tell us that this player should have got a red card for it. This player should have scored when he was onside for whatever reason, and things like that. It all doesn't matter. The best team always wins the title, in my opinion. Even if, like, Arsenal's, what people say online is sort of Arsenal are not going to be, this remembered side for how good of a football team they were. And it doesn't matter to Arsenal fans. For us, look, for my personal opinion, are this Arsenal's team entertaining and great to watch? Absolutely not. There's been so much better entertaining teams, but they've won the same amount of titles in each year. Yeah, you just have to be the best of the rest, and they most certainly were. I sort of said it earlier on in the season where I don't think City were good enough to win this title, and I was right in that way, and Arsenal were. They've had a lot of pain and a lot of grief and banter against them for pretty much four or five seasons, like consistently, with second again being sung by every team in the country, where realistically, second again was better than nearly every team, probably apart from City and 1 year Liverpool. So they deserve to win it, and they've gone through a lot, especially being the social media team, like the social media aspect they have. They've gone through a lot, and they're now laughing.
This is it, isn't it? Is, when people say, do you deserve it? The answer is, of course, they absolutely do. I do believe the table doesn't lie. You finish where you deserve to finish. If you finish outside on goal difference, you might say to yourself, what if, what if we hadn't done this? And there were serious doubts amongst myself and fans going, what if we hadn't conceded that last minute goal to United or to Villa or to Wolves? We'd have been well clear by then. What if, City hadn't lost to Bournemouth? We'd be looking at a very different final, or drew at Bournemouth, sorry, we'd have been at the final, different final game. And all of those crept up, and they crept up, I think, because of how it had been the last 3 years of the second place. A lot of teams would kill to be in that position. I understand it, but when you're so close yet so far, it's the hardest thing to take, and they do deserve it. I think it's testament to Pep and Man City just how good and relentless they are. Liverpool as well, of course, had their moment, and that was also fully deserved. But they got there in the end. This was probably Arteta's last throw of the dice. And they've offered something different to City. When we play good football, we play good football, but we've had to be relentless and go for the set pieces and have that aggressive and take a 1-0 and shut up shop. We've offered something different and it's worked. We've rode our luck, but the pieces came together in the end, and it is completely fully deserved, and it's a testament to the club for getting it over the line and taking advantage at last when City did slow up, because I felt there was a failure to do that. And despite the noise, the knockbacks, they got over the line. Let's not forget they've won in all competitions, nearly 71% win ratio, which is impressive. They got to a final of a League Cup, quarter final of an FA Cup, and are obviously in a Champions League final. So they've pushed the limit, across all competitions. They've been competitive everywhere, which I don't think actually has been acknowledged as much yet. Despite how they performed, yes, we can get into that, but they got there, but they got over the line where the one that matters most. And that, monkey off their shoulder, weight off their shoulder must be so huge. You could just see the relief from the players, and they do deserve it. A lot of those players have worked hard and have never seemed to have given up hope, and it's there, and they've finally got their rewards, and it is deserved.
100%. Look, you can asterisk it however you want, but the reality is they've won the Prem, and it's simple as that. A Prem with 100 points is the same as a Prem with 85 points, right? You know, you can pinpoint decisions, absolutely, but we've said, time and time again, when City winning titles, they're having decisions. When Liverpool won the title recently, they got decisions in their favour. It's just how the league works. I think no red cards, no penalties conceded is a bit of a weird stat, which I don't think we've ever seen before.
That's a
Um,
disgrace. If you want to go with anything undeserved, that is the point.
yeah, that's
There
that's
is
yeah,
so many penalties and red cards Arsenal could have had. Now, like I said, I think they deserve to win the title, but to have that clean slate record is a joke.
yeah,
Some of
that's
these
that's
decisions is
yeah,
dreadful.
It's also that wider conversation of, to win a league, you got to be good, but you need a lot in your favour. There's
yeah,
no doubt Arsenal got away with some, my opinion, that should have been red cards or decisions that maybe went in their favour. But this is the same for every team. Arsenal wouldn't have, the Invincibles weren't flawless, if you know what I mean. I mean, they still drew 12 games, or they still, Van Nistelrooy was a lick of paint, away from ending it in like the third game. So everything's got luck, but those only become what ifs if you don't do it.
yeah.
Now they're irrelevant. They are completely irrelevant, and regardless of that, you know,
That's
shit
that's the
happens.
that's the point, right? For whatever, for the last 3 seasons, playing slightly more attractive football, less shithouse football, if you want to call it that, didn't work, right? City were just better. So the fact Arsenal have adapted, and you can call it dark arts, you can call it whatever you want, they have adapted their game, and love it or hate it, they are the best team in the league right now, and they have been this season, and they deserve the Prem. Pains me to admit it, but that's the bottom line, right? So let's try and break down who should take credit for this win. Oftentimes, it's not just going to be one individual or the manager or whatever the board. Who for you, Reece? We'll come back to you as the Arsenal fan. Who do you think deserves the most credit for Arsenal getting back and winning the Prem?
I think it's a effort across the whole club. It goes from the top to the bottom. The players deserve it. They're the ones getting the results. Arteta certainly deserves it, and his backroom staff, because they, they had the tactic approaches to the game. It seemed like the players never gave up hope with him. He was, he was, successful in that. He adapted when he adapted, and they learned from certain games. When there was a certain defeat, they learned from it, bounced back. Like I said, even this season when there was a lot of scrutiny, they bounced back. And Arteta really offered something different to the juggernaut of Man City and to the juggernaut of Liverpool, where he competed considerably. I remember During the lockdown season, there was a lot of stick on him, but he didn't have his whole plate squad there. But you saw what he was trying to do, and it went. But I also want to give credit to the top with the Cronkies, who had been controversial owners to some, disliked by many. I felt unfairly, I felt he's a businessman. But since they've been able to take full control of the club, they've backed him. If we see the documentary where Josh Kroenke tells him, we just shut the noise out, they have backed him. They've given him the tools, and they're providing a model for a lot of clubs. They've made him the manager, and they've not let player power take over. They've given him you know, the authority. If you want him to go, he will go. And that is so important to stability at a club, to allowing a team to progress. They've let him build that squad to get over the line, and I think that deserves just as much credit as everything else. It's a perfect cycle where it has worked. Like I said, they shut the noise out and they got it done. They've backed him. They've not just, since 2019 he's been in charge. That's a long-serving manager in today's game. But they have backed him. Most clubs would have pulled the trigger in 2022 when they threw fourth away. Clubs would have pulled the trigger in 2023 when they, threw the title away. Certainly the last two seasons they could have pulled the trigger, but they didn't. They backed him. They didn't even show signs of getting rid of him. They backed him. It's a project that's worked for him at the Denver Nuggets, the LA Rams, and it's worked here. So everybody deserves a lot of credit for pushing through to the end, and it's paid off. And I think that's what the credit is. It's people behind the scenes as well as the ones on the TV screens, the ones dealing with the media, the ones dealing with the social media. Everyone deserves credit, and that really is a fact.
I think you missed one key date out on your. They could have got rid of him. That was August 2021. First three games they lost, and the third game was getting beat 5-0 to us away from home. It was against 10 men, but you'd lost. I think they played Chelsea as well at home. Got battered that day. Played us. Got battered. I can't remember who the other game was, but it was sort of like
newly promoted Brentford.
Yeah, there you go. So those were three terrible results because Brentford, you said, just got promoted. You got battered. I remember the Chelsea game. It wasn't competition, and when you played City, it wasn't competition. It was like playing, for City and Chelsea that day. Them days it was like a relegation team. It was just a fun day out for us where we knew we were going to win. That's what it has come from. He's done it in probably a bit longer time than what you would have hoped for, Reece. But the board stick by him, and so he gets over the line with it. I think you do have to look at. Well, you have to look at your set piece coach as well. You broke the record. You laugh, Jordan. I saw you laughing, but they broke the record for the most amount of goals from set piece this season. It is a massive factor for him because, in my opinion, in the attack wise, this is probably why people don't think Arsenal has an entertaining side, is because their attack is a bit lackluster. It's not that exciting. It's not one where you've got someone who's scoring loads of goals like a Haaland, Aguero, a Drogba, Costa, people like that, a Thierry Henry. You don't have that. Like, you do have Gyökeres, but I think he's still finding his feet in the Premier League, and he hasn't been that, big goal talisman. But you've had goals from everywhere. Gabriel, Saliba, Timber popping up with goals, Rice popping up in the right sort of times. And that's what you've done, and you've done it in your way. You've played to your strengths because you do have the best defence in the league. So if you're the best, and you're one of the best at defending sort of set pieces with the size of your team, and you've turned it into goals. So it is a big credit there. Now, some of the sort of grappling that goes on, I've said for years, this is before Arsenal were doing it, this is when other teams were doing it, they needed to crack down on it, but they never did. And Arsenal fully gone with, well, they're not getting rid of it, let's carry on. And it's not, I'm not saying this is blaming Arsenal at all. This is, I believe, the referees need to have addressed this years ago. But Arsenal have played to that advantage. They've spotted a weakness in other teams and an advantage for them, and They've been brilliant at it, really.
I mean, we're seeing, more clubs take this approach now. I understand why it's paid dividends and it does work. But I agree with you. I think like we look at the signings they made, rarely any of them have been poor. I've stuck up for a lot of his signings and I think they've been key ones. Kai Havertz, regardless of his criticisms, has been a key signing because I said we never had a player at the time that nicks us a goal and a 1-0 win. And he does that. He got us, I think, in his first season about 12 points just from his winning goal alone. Um, and same with this season, the goal at against Burnley, for example. Gyökeres, to me, like I said at the start of the season, wasn't there to score 30 goals. That's not what he's there for. Again, he's there to score that goal in a 1-0 win. And he did that twice. He scored the winning goal against in Everton against both games. I know Dalman got the second in the second game, but Gyökeres got that goal when it mattered. 6 points there, 6 crucial points. That's what's critical. That's where all these players have contributed. Gabriel getting that key winner at Newcastle, Martinelli getting that key equaliser against City. Players have stepped up in the key moments. That's where everything has evolved over time, and it's been a huge success. But the fact that the club, other than probably what goals scored, which I think was 71 in comparison to City 77, they pretty much broke the record everywhere. Most wins, probably the least draws, uh, least losses,
Are you meaning? Are you
least
meaning
goals
just for
conceded
this? Are you meaning just for this
in the
season
league
or Arsenal?
this season. Yeah, this
Right.
season
Okay.
for
So
us.
I'm saying this side has not broke them sort of records.
No,
So yeah, fair
no,
enough. Fair enough.
just
You're
for this
saying
season.
this season,
It
fair
goes
enough.
to
Yeah.
show how much you deserve a championship, don't you? Best goal difference in the league. Other than that, I said the goals scored, you've you've managed to knock all those barriers down. And I think that's so important. We're not just looking at, oh, they're the only team to have conceded less. They've backed it up. So that to me is real testament to the team and how they've developed over this time. And full credit.
Yeah, I agree. Everyone deserves credit, obviously. For me, though, it's the ownership. They're the ones who won't get the credit, but probably should get the credit. And you look at the mess that we've seen at other clubs more recently. Sometimes, we all talk about projects this, projects that in modern football, but how rarely do we actually see a project play out where they pipe out the noise, they back the manager, Arteta, who do you want to sign? All right, if it's reasonable, we'll go and do it.
Mm.
Um, you know, who does the manager want?
Yeah.
None of this, whatever head coach BS. I don't want to hear it. Pep has been ridiculously successful. Why? Because he had a little bit of control over signings and he built a team to fit his model. Arteta has done the same thing. And now, lo and behold, you spend a bit of money, you have a bit of patience, and it's worked. And now Arsenal could, and we'll come on to it in a moment, Arsenal could potentially now go on and build a dynasty. Maybe that's a bit hard, bit extreme, but they're now in a position where next season you'll look at them and go, yeah, they could probably compete for the league again. It's not a one-off because they've now got a culture of players who understand what the manager wants, has kind of been signed or built around his system, and now you're seeing the fruits of it. And you may even, get the cherry on the top of the cake with a Champions League victory, all because the owners have cut out the noise and just gone, look, we back you. Here's some money. We will keep him. And look, Arsenal spent money. There's still some people out there who said he's got a shoestring budget. So let's drop that complete and utter bullshit. He has spent money. Arsenal have spent money. Let's make no bones
Yeah,
about it.
it's absolutely true.
But
Yeah,
so is every club. That every
it's
club
absolutely
has to do
true.
it.
He's
That's the
spent
difference.
money, and I think as well though, I think people didn't realize how much of the squad he had to tear up. So they've had to back him. It's not
Mm.
like they just decided to put a Snoopy plaster over a gunshot wound. They've gone, no, no, no. Let's rip this squad out. It's going to take 2 to 3 years, but you're going to get there. Look, a couple of trophies should have been added in between this time. I said how good City were. Better late than never. All right. But the reality is that they've backed him. They've weathered a lot of storms over the years, particularly in the Wenger years and the unfortunate timing in the sense of City's ownership and Chelsea's ownership. It become instead of a two-team league, it become four, then it's five. Now we're in the top six. So they've weathered a lot of storms and it looks like they've finally got there and they've backed him. considerably, and it's deserved. It's like I said, it's paid dividends.
Yeah, and let's look now ahead to the future. I mentioned it briefly. Where do we see this team in comparison to those old greats? Let's make the obvious one. Let's compare them to the Invincibles. Do we see this Arsenal team on that level, or is that getting a bit carried away? Because I've seen comparisons. My initial thoughts are that's a little bit ridiculous in terms of you look at the individual quality in that Invincibles team and you look at the individual quality now. I don't quite think it stacks up personally. But is this a team who can now go on and build a real legacy?
I think it actually comes down to one game of football. If Arsenal win the Champions League, it's better than the Invincibles, and if they don't, they're not. It comes down as simple as that. Trophies matter, and the biggest trophy that Arsenal haven't won is the Champions League. If they win that, they're above the Invincibles, and that's the funny thing. I've seen Arsenal fans say this as well. If they did the double, this is before they even won the league, said they'd be better than the Invincibles, even though for years Arsenal fans have been arguing that the Invincibles are better than City's treble winning side, United's treble winning side, teams that have done more points than them in the league. But now it's actually, if we do the double, they are one of the greatest sides in Premier League history. Because I don't think anyone's actually done the double. Just two teams have done the treble. I don't think anyone's done the double, which is quite funny in that sort of aspect where it's technically, it's harder to do the treble than to do the double. But it's simple as that. They win the big trophies. That's what matters. And also, if they don't and win it next year, they've done something that Arsenal haven't done. I don't know, like they haven't done in the Premier League and win back to back. It's so difficult to win back to back, and that would be a big testament to them and would put them above the Invincibles because they've done something that they could not do.
Yeah, I think to me, like I don't really like comparing eras because football's changed so much in a certain amount of time, right? I think players are technically better now, tactically better now. Do they probably have the speed and counter-attack style that the 034 team had? No. But would the 034 team be able to beat them? Probably not, because they'd be so defensively better and more naturally gifted as athletes. I think it's you can't really compare them. Um, we've done the treble twice, which is of course second place finishes, one under Wenger, one under Arteta. And funny enough, to your question about that league and Champions League double, the last team to do that in England were United in 0708. And people say that Ferguson side was the best ever. Okay, better than that treble winning side. Because obviously they didn't necessarily take it to the last day or last kick of the game. And that's a testament to how good that side were. They were better because they showed, they had probably more confidence, more better performances, whatever, however you look into it. City did do the double over United that year, just an FYI.
Good old Sven.
But look, I don't see us beating PSG, but the difference is the monkey's off our back now. Imagine if they hadn't won the league, the pressure going into this game, and we've seen how they perform, when it mattered usually. But you win it, this is the greatest Arsenal team of all time. Wenger got to a final, but he never won it. And if anything, the winners' cups performances he also underperformed in. So do it, they're the greatest of all time. There's no doubt about that. You can't take that away, especially in today's game with the money, the competitiveness. You know, it's a different animal now, and they would deserve it. Like I said, I don't see it. I think they're so happy to have what they have. They might take their foot off the gas a bit, whereas PSG look like they're all business at the moment. But whatever, I don't care. The reality is they've finally done it. But there is also a big summer ahead. Because we've seen with Liverpool, we've seen when Chelsea, how easy, and I know Leicester's a different animal, but we've seen how easy it is for teams to fall away. Arsenal now need to make the decisions on how they're going to improve this side, who they're going to move on. I think there are a few players I think we can all agree they're going to move on, who they're going to bring in to take this team to the next level, to build on that consistency, because they've got a great opportunity to do that. So it'd be interesting to see where they go from here. But at the moment, I'm not comparing them to the Invincibles side because they're two different eras. but I would argue that this team would beat the Invincibles in a match. Both prime teams, both prime teams. I'm not, Henri and
I
Perez are
don't
in
know
their
about that.
forties now, so I would say so because I think the game is so technically advanced now. I think they would struggle. That's all it is. But to be compared means you're in that, you're onto something good. So hopefully it continues, but they've done it. They've finally achieved what they had to achieve, but you can't just sit here and think about it, and live off it. You've got to push forward. Otherwise you'll be left behind. And it's that simple.
Yeah. Well, we'll leave that debate to continue, particularly Arsenal fans watching. Hit us up below and have your say on is this team better than the Invincibles if they win the Champions League. But as always, that is all we got time for. Like, comment, and subscribe. You know the drill.